Hello, everyone. Welcome to the DMV Business Show. I'm your host, Otto Sevilla, and today I have a very special guest for you, Jonathan Fischbeck. Jonathan is an entrepreneur and three-time startup founder, and now founder and CEO of EstateSpace. Welcome to the show, Jonathan.
Hey, Otto. Thanks for having me here today.
Of course, the pleasure's all mine. Thank you. Before we go into your personal story, if you can just give the audience a brief general overview of who is EstateSpace?
Awesome. Yeah, no. So EstateSpace is the number one cloud ERP for the ultra high net worth marketplace for non-financial asset management. So if you think about properties, cars, art, jewelry, jets, etc., we're a dynamic platform that's helping manage all of their non-financial assets and all of the surrounding private operations around those.
I love this space. I can't wait to get into how you even come about, being in this space.
Yeah,
Are,
no, absolutely.
are you originally from this area, from the DC, Maryland, Northern Virginia area, Jonathan?
Yeah, so I was born Iowa, Fairfax. I grew up here till I was about six. I moved to upstate New York, just outside of Syracuse, for 16 years. And then when I was done with college, I came back to Northern Virginia.
So you missed the DMV area then.
I did, and the sunshine.
Well, so you grew up most of the time in upstate New York, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I know it's colder out there and a little bit more snow than down here. How was it growing up in Syracuse?
I mean, it was great, right? I mean, great people, great community. I think at the end of the day, for me, though, my heart's kind of always been in Virginia and the DC metro area. So as I was done with school and had some opportunities to get back to Virginia, I came back down to Charlottesville, and then eventually, a few years later, relocated back up here in Northern Virginia.
How old were you when you left and moved up to upstate New York?
Six to 22. So
Okay.
16 years up there.
Did you have family back here? Would you come down here and visit, or I guess you just had fond memories, or?
Oh, no. We've had family and friends down here, so I never really stopped coming back to Virginia every year. Tubing the James River and experiencing the Blue Ridge and skyline and all the great natural wonders here in the state.
Awesome. You said college. Where did you attend?
Just outside of Syracuse at a community college Onondaga, and my focus was in technologies and mainly computer sciences.
So growing up, were you always sort of into comp sci or tech or anything like that, or how were you
Yeah,
as a child?
yeah. So the younger me, kind of life story. My mother was a fine artist. My father was a computer scientist, so I loved art and science. I tended to gravitate towards math, science, computers and technology growing up through school. But then I actually pivoted and finding kind of the beauty of all of those things culminating in general contracting and construction. So when I came back down to Virginia, I started working for a local contractor. And then I was able to I really enjoyed kind of the art and science behind engineering and architecture. And so that was, primarily my professional career for, about 18 years. And then, again, that part of those experiences, which I'm sure we'll get into, was the genesis for where I am today.
Awesome. So I guess you sort of not grew up, but from the very beginnings, you were in the construction real estate industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Out of college, I got into real estate construction and those were my first two ventures were in that space.
How was it, the construction industry?
It's tough. It's one of those things where probably every 3 to 5 years, I could really tell that I was getting better and improving professionally, having a much stronger work product. But overall, I mean, I was kind of heads down in that industry for about 15 years. And it was tough. But at the same time, it was one of the greatest experiences that I've ever been able to be a part of. I've reached really cool pinnacles within that space. I've done some really amazing projects and, definitely thankful for my experiences, through that and working with all the wonderful people that I've met along the way.
What was your role there? What were you doing in the construction industry?
Yeah. So, I mean, I started off pushing a broom, learning how to build
Yeah.
in the early 2000s. And then come about 2006, started my first company. Had small projects, small houses, great recession hits in '08. And so have to kind of think about how I'm going to reinvent myself. start a second venture, and that's where I was able to start to pivot to working for like tech founders and corporate executives, C-suite executives, and given my background in education, I was really able to make meaningful connections, and so that's how I kind of got into the ultra high net worth space. And so my second venture was really focused on that area. I loved it. You were able to do amazing projects. I mean, we had larger budgets, so we were able to do higher end things, and I really found a joy in being able to work with those families and being able to do some really cool things that in some cases have never been built before. So that was really challenging but rewarding. And so that was how I was able to kind of get through that and really thrive. And that's what led me back up to Northern Virginia. Ultimately was I was down in the Charlottesville, UVA area, and it just stopped. It was like one day people were doing stuff and spending money and building, and the next day nobody was doing anything. So came back up to the DC metro area where the government seems to keep things moving. It's still in real estate, and so I was able to stay in this insulated area and be able to make it through that. And really coming out the other side was some pretty amazing experiences. So working in that space, took me to a couple of different places, to include becoming an owner representative, where I was a fiduciary, and I sat next to a principal or our client and helped them deploy capital into real property, whether it was new construction, renovation, residential, commercial. So it was those experiences. It was the work that we were doing and starting to get to a very, very large scale where we were unable to transition some of our projects over to our clients. And so the company became a facilities management firm, not by design, but that's how we got kind of sucked into private service, if you will. And so it was around 2014. And when that happened, we started to look for technology because it was just spreadsheets and disparate applications, and it was impossible. It wasn't impossible. We were able to transition the data, but it was in a way in which no one was ever going to look at it, right? It was just too much information, and it wasn't packaged in a way that was digestible. So we were able to at that point realize that there was a massive gap, and over the next couple of years, we studied the marketplace, kind of studied that whole ecosystem that we'd been a part of for the better part of 5 or 6 years at that point, and that was the genesis for EstateSpace.
Wow, that's very interesting. With the facility management, I understand you transitioned basically into that from where it started the company. Were you mostly managing commercial or real estate properties at that point?
Yeah, so it was all private family residential.
Okay.
We were still building, but that we then were also managing. So we were, we were, if you will, forced into managing because we were unable to transition back to the estate managers or somebody that would be managing the facility because of the complexity. So we're building very large estates at commercial scale for private families and residential. And so that was a big challenge in being able to hand that playbook over and all the knowledge base. So it was, it's at that point in time that we, thought, there's got to be a better way to do this. Mm-hmm. And so, when you started to look at our space, we really took a different approach into it because we understand the problem, right? We lived the service problem. So we knew that it was interconnected. It wasn't just our team to the client, but it was, estate managers, staff, housekeeping, advisory services, financial services, wealth management. There's all these pieces and people within this ecosystem that really needed to be connected in a better way. And so our challenges were, lack of communication or communicating over multiple mediums, not being able to have, real good transparency of information because of privacy issues. And then the big one was that there was just no standard. And so our families, my father's company, they did a lot of work with the DOD and VA around healthcare IT. So around that time when the Great Recession is happening, and I'm up in Northern Virginia now, his company's scaling and growing right here in the Tyson's Corner area. And so it was, I had a front row seat to watching how they were dealing with huge unstructured sets of data, and how they were able to build systems and put technology together in a way that would help better manage it. So it was almost like, you look back on the journey, and it was like I was kind of in the right place at the right time when you start to look back along the way. And EstateSpace has been a fantastic venture for me personally, because it's very fulfilling. I get to help people at scale, which is what I love to do. And it's kind of a culmination of being able to kind of roll up everything that I've ever really cared for personally, professionally, educationally, being able to bring all that to market in a way that helps people has been, been the best part so far for me in the last few years here.
That's great. Jonathan, you mentioned when you moved up here, you were with this firm as a principal, correct?
Yes.
And
Yep.
you were building these higher end homes. Was this more locally or throughout the country?
No, just in the DMV area. So
Okay.
Southern Maryland, Northern Virginia, Central Virginia.
So you started thinking about there was a need, that there was, I guess, there was no platform or software that the industry was using at that time.
Yeah, so that led, about 2014 is when I started research. Started researching technology at first, and then I started to really start researching people and studying that entire ecosystem of how does all of this work. And we're working with families, family offices. We're working with vendors all around the world. So we had a huge amount of experience at that point in time when it came to understanding the problem. And so then we wanted to understand the people, and we wanted to understand their problems so that we could ultimately come back with our goal was providing a platform that was, software as a service, it was easy to use, and that it worked for anybody, right? So it would work if a family bought it. It would work if a business that was serving a family bought it. Ultimately, me personally, the best part was I'm solving my own business problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
Today I still am using too much tech, so really creating a single cloud ERP that I can do anything from time management to staff resourcing and being able to understand project management, property management, and corporate management and governance, and doing all of that in one place. When you start to look at technology in the world, right, especially as it might relate to the things we're dealing with on the non-financial asset side of the coin, there's good technology out there, but they only usually do one to two things. And so that's the problem, is that we understood, again, when we talk about that interconnected problem, we knew that we had to have an interconnected solution, and that's exactly what EstateSpace is.
So you start thinking of this in your mind, and then where do you go? You're like, I need to get engineers, coding. What happens next once you start researching and thinking about the business?
Yeah, so it was a huge problem and to solve for. So in the beginning, somewhat overwhelmed. I would also say that I was successful in construction. I thought that might just easily translate into technology. Truth be told, it took a couple of years to kind of separate from construction, but then it ended up taking another couple of years to separate from a service mindset. So our number one strength today was my number one weakness back then. And so, scaling services is different than scaling technology. It's just, there's some fundamental differences, there's some shared attributes, but, it's different. And so, when I start to look back, in the beginning, it was great, but come 2019, I'm kind of at a crossroads of what are we going to do? This is pre-pandemic, and I'm glad that we were able to kind of do this pre-pandemic, but we decided at that point to pivot the company to SaaS. Met an amazing mentor and advisor in Barry Liebert, who had a lot of platform experience, one of the thought leaders in the space. So it just ended up happening where, I'm in someone's kitchen. I've never met him. A week later, he's hired, and 3.5 years later, and we're in a growth phase now. So, again, love the ride. And as far as the challenges go, I think I've probably endured all of them as a founder. We started bootstrapped. we have this really great business model, though, if you will, when it comes to kind of a virtuous cycle from having clients that then became investors. They're giving us their information. We're improving their economics. They're investing more. And so we're just kind of going round and round. And we found this really nice place, if you will, from a niche perspective. But the way that we've always planned on building out the platform, we're SaaS with a marketplace. So we can't do all the services anymore, but we have partners that do those things in which our clients need. So we've really thought about, when you start to look at what EstateSpace is at a macro level, we're fintech, we're prop tech, and we're life tech, because the family office space has evolved to lifestyle fulfillment. And so whether we're working with a construction management firm or a single family office or a multifamily office or wealth management firm, where we're a scalable back office for them when it comes to the management of fulfillment for their clients. You're starting to see a trend around the world where these companies, especially kind of the mid-level market, they're adding a lifestyle component, right? They want to be able to serve, but what ends up happening is that you've got this great company, they're helping with the wealth management side of things, they're helping with taxes, things that are kind of relate to that. But there's then a tier one group that's just fielding calls and requests on the fulfillment side. And so we help scale that for them without having to add more people. And I think, when it comes to what we've built, and what's most exciting is that we really just have to change our messaging to be able to go after a different vertical within our space.
How do you go about finding the right partner, especially as you scale?
So being in service, I've had the right partners for many, many years now. So I've worked with them in a different capacity. Okay. And so it was, after about 12 years in the space, I've got all these amazing people. And the hardest thing that our clients end up being faced with is finding the right people and getting good advice. And so our marketplace right now is purely service providers across 12 different categories, from advisory to finance, insurance, travel, staffing, so that our clients can get good advice and get the right people in the right time, and know that they're not losing time in due diligence because we've done all that for them.
You were just mentioning earlier, Jonathan, how it's very different scaling a service business compared to a SaaS or tech. How so?
So scaling services typically means that you're scaling people. So that playbook I was very familiar with, but when it comes to making trying to scale technology, it's a different mindset. It's a different approach, and so it's actually the opposite, the inverse, if you will. How can you scale faster with less? And so that was kind of the paradigm shift that I went through. Ultimately, getting to that place was tough. Because at the end of the day, my goal is always to get to the most simplest thing possible, right? And to get this simple is hard, and it's been a wonderful learning experience. But now that I'm kind of through that, everything that once it kind of clicks, for at least for me, it's now kind of everything. I'm looking through that lens of scale and growth, and it's everything's really starting to slow down for us in a good way. And we're just at that point now. Like I said, every release that we have, we continue to grow faster. So that for us is exciting. We've got a ton of traction in the space, and that's been, very rewarding, because I think when as a founder, you go back to kind of one of your previous questions, which was great. Like, what are some of the challenges in the beginning? Well, it's like, I've got this huge vision and it's just me. And so, over the last 6 years, it's went from, my vision to our vision. And now we have clients that are providing, they're our best idea team, right? So we've got, all this input now that we're able to, take in, think about, and come back with really thoughtful responses from either a product perspective or a services perspective. So, coming full circle, we're now releasing EstateSpace services in Q2 of this year, where we'll be helping with, managed onboarding, continuous support, in inventory services to help them get their framework set up, and technology services such as home control systems or network integrations, because we're technology that needs strong internet to perform at best. So, we're doing some services now, which is exciting. But, I think the real strength for us is that we know that our technology is useless without people using it. And so we've got almost 20 service providers that we've partnered with that are able to provide really pointed solutions for our clients, from, how are we going to plan an operation and make it more efficient using EstateSpace, right? How are we going to, best ensure all of these non-financial assets are making sure that we have the right documentation and appraisals. So we've really curated a pretty special group of providers. And, again, the easy part for me is that I've known most of them for about 10 years. So we're all in the same space. We all have past performance together, and, just really great people doing really great things.
These 20 providers you just mentioned. So basically someone logs into EstateSpace and they're all in there. It's just one platform, and make it simple and easy, or how does it work?
Yep, no, simple and easy. So you can just log into your mobile application. We have a marketplace of providers. We're an inclusive mindset. So we built a platform where anybody could be involved, right? I've done it all from sweeping to being a 3-time founder and CEO. So making sure there's a place for everybody. And then from a marketplace perspective, we're a non-compete. There's no reason to compete in this space. There's too many people to be served and not enough people to serve them. So we have multiple, partners in the same category. At the end of the day, it comes down to, our clients don't need to be solicited to. Every one of our partners has a profile. Someone just pushes a little green button that says request service, and somebody will call you and support whatever it was that you were looking for. And a very high success rate with our partners, over 80% close win, because it's just a high trust, very easy relationship to kick off. We don't get involved in it. We're just connecting our clients with our partners so that they can transact and they can work together, because we just want to best support our clients. And that's that knowing how to approach both sides has been one of our strengths as well. And the marketplace has done great. It's done over $1 million in revenue so far for our partners, and it's continuing to grow as we grow. And it's just, it ends up being really, really helpful, and, having it all in the palm of your hand. And, our clients want to be able to get the help when they want it, from who they want it, how they want it, right? And so we let them do that just by simply reading and selecting who they'd like to work with.
I love it. I mean, it's 24/7, because someone can have a home here, but then they want to go to the south of France to their villa, for example, and then different time zone, and you need to be on all time with the software, of course.
Yeah, no, and I think travel is a great category, right? We have a partner in Black Tie Travel that helps curate experiences that are second to none. But we also partner with another technology company in Haven. And so Haven's fantastic. They're kind of the standardized ultra high net worth Airbnb that you may have never heard about, but they've got amazing properties around the world. So maybe somebody doesn't want to go to their villa, but they want to go somewhere else. So being able to become a Haven member and an EstateSpace member at the same time gives them, a lot of power, and being able to plan that next amazing experience with their family.
I love how it's almost a very sticky product and service, Jonathan. What would you say? How is the retention rate?
Yeah, so retention is great as far as our paid clients go. We offer a 14-day free trial. We've started rolling out services, because what we found was that only about 30% of our clients are power users, and so we've crossed over 100 clients and almost 1,000 members, and so what that was telling us is that some of our other clients needed help. And so that became, okay, great, we're going to offer concierge white glove services. It's going to be a subscription base. So, our approach is that we want to get you up and running quickly in the first month. And then month after month, you have a number of hours, and we can help bring your art collection online, and we can help, get the maintenance plate in place for that. in the beginning, we usually address their primary property and like their whole house systems. That's where we're going to see the biggest value add in the beginning. And then after that, it's what's most important to our client and kind of following their lead. But us being able to do all of that work to include going and inventorying everything, capturing attributes and documentation, all depends on what our clients are looking for. And so what's great about this is it's all real time, Otto. So that means that, as we do a house, it just kind of, they log in and now they've got a new property online and now they've got a new collection of assets online and cared for. And what ends up happening is, it's not necessarily the principal or the main individual that may be using this every day. It's their team that's using this every day. And so, I'd say, having a calendar, we've built in communications and, text messages, channels, and we've done it in a way that is, what we consider to be highly productive. Keeping everything in context, keeping everything in one secure platform, right? We don't really need to dive too much into security other than we've achieved, every regulatory compliance that we could, to include HIPAA and others at a global scale, because our clients are not just US based, right? They're all over the world. And even if they might be US based, they have international interests. So we really wanted to make sure that we were ready to be able to start to work with banks and law firms and insurance firms. And we're actually currently doing that now and bringing, new clients online at scale, which has been for us really exciting.
You were just mentioning now how it's basically the team who uses the platform daily. Who would you say is that point person who who do you need to speak to make sure EstateSpace is in their hand and they're using it? Obviously, I don't know is it that final end client who owns that estate, or is it someone part of their team?
Yeah, so it starts with their team. All the data that we have, that principal family member, right, the person that might ultimately be paying for all of this, they're doing a lot of delegation through messaging, which is leading us to really cool innovation, like being able to convert a text message into a to-do, right, into an action item, into a task for somebody. But no, when it comes to like private families, family offices, it's typically going to be the executives within the family office, director of residences, that are going to be leading the way, and then you've got local staff on properties. You've got the boots on the ground people are the ones that are really getting all the work done, and then that kind of director levels and also working with us is kind of setting that framework up and getting the maintenance in place. And when it comes to some of the stuff that we're excited to roll out here in the next month is our project management suite. And so what that's going to allow us to do is really start to focus on B2B. A lot of the clients that we've got companies that are all over the world now that are running on our tech, which is really great. They're mainly estate or property management companies, or sole proprietors, or small businesses, and they are and so supporting them has been really great, because they are similar to where I was, right? Where they're a small business, they're doing facilities and property management. They're, they need our support like anybody else would. And then they're now, bringing their, we've got, I think next month, we've already got two clients that we're onboarding that are small businesses that have, anywhere from like 15 to 20 people. And then, the way that we built this was that now they can invite their clients into their EstateSpace. And what they've done is they've just started to eliminate all of the administrative work, because we are creating a perspective for their clients, for their vendors, for their employees, and the system's doing all of that for them. So now they've got this centralized place as they're working with their clients to include end-to-end financials and being able to start to simplify their businesses and start to gain efficiencies. So we're gonna see, I think, a pretty big uptick in B2B, and I really like that space for us, because even if we're selling to them, we're still supporting that end client. Yeah. So it ends up, again, there's kind of this virtuous cycle when it comes to our product, where it doesn't really matter where it originates from. Even if the client buys it, they're bringing on the team that helps manage all of their properties. So it ends up, again, that kind of that bi-directional, like, friction-free platform.
These facility management companies or property management companies, where are they typically finding you? Is it, I don't know, online, advertising, or conferences?
Yeah, so it's primarily going to be online. We don't spend a whole lot on advertisement. Our space, again, I'm a big believer in 2 inches wide and 2 miles deep. So I've drilled that hole, and everybody knows, kind of who we are in our space. So as our product continues to mature, we end up finding that, again, with each release, we become attractive to a new segment within our space. Still with the same focus, but just the ability to start to offer this to a new segment with each release, which is every about 2.5 months, 3 months. So it ends up working out really well for us as far as when we're talking to people. People they either know who we are, somebody is using us and they know them, or we know them and they're waiting for the right kind of point in time in which to get started. So like I said, next month we'll have a lot of our small business property management, facility management companies being able to start to really come online. But the cool thing is that we're not built. I'm a big believer in building technology in a way that's kind of agnostic to industry. So we've got interior design firms coming on, inventory firms coming on, advisory service businesses. So we really look at, I've always been a big believer that a business is a business. And so, with EstateSpace, we've got some pretty lofty goals here. And our aim is to ultimately solve some pretty amazing life problems. But along the way, we wanted to build something that was going to be helpful for everybody in that ecosystem, no matter what their business was, no matter what their family did, et cetera.
You mentioned they're finally mostly online. Are they sort of Googling certain keywords or terms like estate manager or something? Or
yeah, I mean, we do targeted advertisement on LinkedIn. That's probably the majority of what we're finding. About 80% of our clients, though, are all inbound. So we only speak. Yeah, we only speak to a small segment. But as far as the people that we do speak to, a very high close win rate once we've demoed somebody. And then as far as our keywords go, I mean, we've done a good job over the last probably 4 years now of ranking at the top of those the keywords and those kind of long tail phrases that we wanted to be found for. So that I think that leads a lot of people to us, as I think we're ranking on page 1 of like 8 of the 10 things that we want to be found on, and we're not too far away from the other ones. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be online searching, and then it's going to be targeted advertisements for the right personas within LinkedIn.
What would you say the people who own these estates, what are some pain points that you've noticed they have now?
Well, I mean, I think their pain is an interconnected pain. So they may be, they may have a property that they financed, and now, the bank has requirements, and just in a conversation Tuesday morning in New York, and they're helping their clients attain new assets, and then they have requirements to include operations and care and financial documentations around the lending transaction. And so we do all of those things. I think when it comes down to it, it's the same problems. It's communication, it's a lack of transparency due to privacy, and it is with those two things, what that ends up equaling is an impossibility on many levels to be able to set and meet expectation. And if you think about it in a simple way, right, where because we have not all of our clients are of the ultra net worth. We have some individuals that just have 5 properties, and they're using us as an individual to manage their Airbnbs and their Vrbo. So what ends up happening for our clients is that they end up finding that it's best that they when they start to look at EstateSpace, they're really looking at, how can I help improve whatever operation that I'm dealing with, whether I have staff or I don't. There's really there's a number of different entry points that we're finding success in.
I'm sure the biggest thing is that people are using the platform is the regaining of their time, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think, that's a value proposition that everyone dreams to have, right? We're giving you back your time. I think it's knowing that the information that you're sharing with certain people is exactly what you want them to see. So you're getting that peace of mind that your data is secured, and the stuff that you want people to not see, they're not seeing. Centralizing all of their communication, and then just providing services within the platform to be able to start to drive efficiency across the operation and gain visibility. I mean, one of the things that we set out to do was to give ownership back to owners, especially when they have complex assets. And we, haven't really talked about some of the personal things that we've really wanted to solve for, but, we've sat next to families that have had sibling divorce over assets. I think that's something that most families have to deal with. As a country, as a whole, we do a very poor job of asset succession to the next generation. And then now you've got these complex estates, and you think that it's like, oh, well, they have everything in the world, but then they lose their mother or their father. And instead of being able to just go through a normal grieving period, they're forced to be sucked into estate management and estate planning, and dealing with trying to settle very complex problems, and they're not experts in it. So, our vision, EstateSpace, was to be that, dynamic asset succession for all these non-financial assets. These are the things that people care about, right? This is their legacy, right? What do they want to leave behind? And then their things, right? Those things are the things that have the stories and the meaning behind them. Money is more or less impersonal, right? It's not like they have an intimate relationship with cash. It's all those things, and that's where we really want to help, curb that and stop sibling divorce, and be able to understand. Look, we have an estate plan. We have, final will and testament. These are the things that they want to have happen. And we want to be that platform that can help, make sure that those things go off in the way that they were supposed to. Again, with financial assets, it's easy, Otto, right? When something happens, two people sign a piece of paper, money gets distributed, but how do you cut a house in half, right? How do you split an heirloom? And so to be able to write that on paper, it's still disputed. And there's a major loss industry when it comes to trying to handle these things, right? To the tune of billions of dollars of legal expenses. And now you've got a family that's worked for a generation to build up wealth, and the next generation loses it fighting over it. And it just, it doesn't make any sense. I'm not solving this just for other people, but I don't want this to happen to me personally. So I'm personally and professionally invested into this mission, and I think that's what kind of makes us is that everybody in our company understands why we're ultimately doing this. And I think making sure that our why is kind of what we live and breathe, and it's part of the core values of our company that's really continued to be a real differentiator for us.
Jonathan, you mentioned earlier how when you started EstateSpace 3.5 years ago, just like many entrepreneurs, it was just you and this grand vision. How has it evolved since then?
So it's well, when we started, right, the first thing I wanted to be able to say was that we were the first mobile application to manage non-financial assets. So we did that. But then we realized that was short-sighted, right? There's this whole other operational piece, and we kind of knew that, but we didn't get the traction that I was expecting us to be able to get with that first part. So that led us into property management, and ultimately back to project management, because our clients, and pretty much everybody, right, that owns a home, they're doing projects around their house, whether it's at small scale, large scale, right, renovation, complete remodel. It's things are always happening, and so we were able to get to a point probably, I want to say, so our commercial product release was April 30th of last year. When we hit our December release, that's when I really consider us to really have started our growth phase in this company, because now we had enough where we were getting enough client feedback to be able to then, now what we're doing is we've went through a complete life cycle of taking feedback from clients, applying it, and refactoring pieces and parts of our platform. And now what's been great is seeing how other people are using it. So some people are using it exactly the way that we designed it. Others are using it in a different way or having suggestions to make it better. And so it's like one of the things I love about technology. It's a never-ending evolution, but it does get to the point where it's like we're now building things that are like kind of off the shelf, out of the box. Like they're right, like they're amazing. So we have a lot less tech churn in our business model today than we did even a year ago, because we have just such great clients, and our clients are across all these different personas, right? We have a half a dozen personas within our client base. So I just love everyone's unique perspective. I think, when it comes to the things that we really focus on is, we want to slow down. We want to listen and make sure that we understand what it is that we're being asked for, so that we can come back with a really thoughtful, productive answer for our clients. And, I would, I've still got ideas, Otto, but I can tell you that they're never going to be, we're never going to build my idea, right? We're going to build our idea today. So that's the thing I've really loved, is that transition that we're now, it's now this huge group of us and we, and they're always smarter than me.
Yeah. I love also how you're always listening to your clients and always evolving. I mean, you need to have that, is a must.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
What would you say drives and motivates you?
I mean, helping people, right? That's my core. That's my why, personally and professionally, is to help people. Whether it's myself, my family, our clients, our team. I mean, that's my motivation, right? And I want to help as many people as possible. I think one of the things that I'd be remiss in talking about would be, why did I leave a successful construction industry and a successful business? Because it was like I would complete a project, you give somebody the keys, and the relationship kind of ended a little bit. And I'm relationship capital to me is the number one currency in the world, and I wanted to be able to help more people at scale, and I just couldn't do that through construction. And so it's been very self-fulfilling to be able to help more and more people. And my goal is to know every one of our clients. Now I know that that's probably not possible, but it's definitely something that I try. We try to do. I think again, we want to talk about the things that make us special, and you start to look at technology out there. They especially for like ERP cloud systems. You've got to go through a demo. You've got to go through like an interview process, right? We don't want that for our clients. We always want to be SaaS. We always want to be easy to find, easy to buy. And then we want to build relationships. So we don't want to hide behind the fact that we're technology and you can't get a hold of a person. We've got a 24/7 call line, and somebody will get back to you typically within, 12 to 24 hours, because we want to hear from you. We want to help. And, you can't compete on product. In technology, yeah, maybe, but somebody can always build something similar. What I've always found over the last 20 plus years is that you can always win on service, right? I can outserve you. I can outperform you from a services perspective, and I can do better there. And that's where I think we've really won. I think some of our best testimonials are coming from people now that have experienced our services. And we just were like, okay, great. Well, we've with tech, we have a great problem, right? We had a churn problem that we're now solving right now as we speak. And, I'm like, look, if people need help getting started, we're just going to offer free onboarding, right? Let's see if that helps. And that helped tremendously, right? That curbed that churn rate by almost 80%. But we still have some churn, right? We don't want any. How can we make it so that we get to like our goal is 0? So we're going to offer more services, but they're going to be thoughtful services that are, what our clients are asking for. So we didn't come up with, well, we think we're going to offer these three things. Our client said, if you could do these three things, this would really help me. So we surveyed our client base, and that's, they told us what we should be doing. So that's what we're doing now.
I love that. And I love the model too, the whole SaaS and the recurring monthly revenue. That monthly drip is just the best. Similar to you, I'm in commercial real estate, and just like we're in construction, the deal is done and then you move on. And then sometimes my clients may need me till maybe a couple of years down the road, if that. But just that recurring revenue, it's the holy grail.
Yeah, and I mean, our product deals with real estate, so I'm able to still like maintain all those relationships just in a different way now, right?
Yeah.
And being able to do that at scale. So I think that's been, as I see EstateSpace being something that should be with every home, right? I mean, it's, what if you had all of this care on your property and you move from a reactive mindset? We have thoughts on how we know how we want to go like mainstream in a couple of years, but everyone's reactive, right? You don't inspect your roof for $200 a year. You call your insurance company when your master ceiling is falling through because of a leak. So it's like, these are the types of strategies that you can employ in your home, even as a single homeowner, right? And we start at less than a cup of coffee a day. I mean, we're $34 a month to get started. So it's and we provide you with these complete digital manuals. So, it's like, if you think about it, it's like you could spend a few $1,000s a year on regular maintenance and just service checkups on your house and kind of the main components. You save on your insurance. So it's like, these are strategies that we help all of our clients with, that we've been helping them with for a long time. But this is not, this applies to anybody and everybody. And that's why we are, starting to partner with real estate firms where they sell a house and they sell it with EstateSpace. And then we're able to help that client get that property into EstateSpace. And then it'll be nice when they go to sell that. What if they could transfer all of that history and that asset to the next family? And so now you can see the problem that we were dealing with almost 10 years ago. Now we're solving for that, what will be about 10 years to the date and a couple of years later, where you're able to transfer these assets and these properties from one homeowner to the next. And now they have all the documentation. I mean, how many times have you sold a commercial building or you've sold a residential property? And it's like, where's all my documentation, right? Homeowners have these things in a desk, in a credenza. As I look in my office right now, I've still got plans that aren't digitized. But it'd be nice to have all those things in one place where you can just pass that off, right? What a huge value add at a very low cost. I mean, I think that's where we want to kind of help families get to over the course of the next, 2 to 5 years.
That's such a fantastic idea, Jonathan. I love it. It just reminds me when you purchase a home, sometimes what some realtors do is they provide you some type of appliance insurance, I believe. Something happens to the stove or microwave or whatever it is, and this is part of it as a gift, but this is a much better gift. You know the history, and then going forward, it's even better.
Yeah, and anything that you put into EstateSpace has a care log. So any task that was completed, anything that was done to that, all the manuals and documentation, it's not really hard to help assets appreciate faster or to help reduce the depreciation rate. It's really not that hard. It's making sure that you have all the right documentation in place to include images, making sure that you have a complete care log of every one of your assets, what was done, who did it, when did it happen, and then having the right appraisal information. And so, it's like, okay, well, who do I get an appraisal from? Go to our marketplace, click a little green button, and somebody's going to be able to, in most cases, help you remotely. I think we're down to like jewelry and fine wardrobe that we actually would maybe have to inspect in person. Otherwise, it can all be done remotely. And so, now you're not like, you don't have to have somebody come to your home. If you have all this information, you can simply share it. And when you do that, they can provide you with something that's remote. And so now you've taken appraisals that might cost hundreds of dollars and you've gotten it down to $75. and now you've got what you need. And then that appraisal might only live based on the asset class for say 3 years. So every 3 years you get a new appraisal, and these are things that are, all of these things are federally accepted. And so we've worked with clients that have done some pretty amazing things. Again, I can't take credit for a lot of this stuff. I've learned it along the way from some really smart people, but they use their non-financial assets as marketable securities to generate more liquid financial wealth, and increase their net worth, and then buy back the asset. And when you think about it, like, it's crazy, right? We're all getting what you're in a world of lending. I've got, furniture, I've got jewelry, I've got all these things. None of them count. They all get zeroed out. And they get zeroed out in most cases because they don't have the right documentation to become something that's marketable, right? And so they're just devalued to zero. I mean, these are even your cars. I mean, you can have an expensive car, but it's not a collectible, so it's just valued at nothing. And so it's kind of helping people start to understand some of these strategies that we've seen at the ultra high net worth level, and bringing those downstream to, myself, a single homeowner with a family of 5, and being able to really give your wealth manager or your financial advisor that third leg of the portfolio. Right now, you're dealing with marketable securities in the financial space. You're dealing with alternative investments and potentially real estate, but you're not all these other non-financial assets, which are a very, very large sum of financial worth around the world. Being able to use those in a way that helps them generate more wealth, like that would be amazing, right? And so that's where I think the other thing that I would want to make mention is that we understand where we belong, right? We know that we are not a wealth management platform when it comes to financial assets, but we know that those platforms, like the whether they're accounting or they're financial management platforms, they need our data. So, we know where we start and stop, and we have really methodical breakpoints where we plan to integrate and push that information out. We don't need to receive anything, right? We're this closed private platform that does those 25 things that I'm using 25 different pieces of tech for, all in one space. And then we know how to give the right information to the other systems that are out there. So pretty big plans here in the next 12 to 18 months to be able to start to realize some of that vision. But again, how do we know what to do? We're listening to what people are asking us for. And then, people buy for us because we have technology that helps improve their life. The other main piece is that we are on a path in which they want us to be on, right? We're on the same path forward that our clients need from us. So again, kind of being acutely aware and really listening is going to serve us well for a long time to come, Otto.
Jonathan, with your wealth of knowledge in entrepreneurship and business, and having founded 3 different companies, if someone were to come to you for advice, and let's say they wanted to start their own business, whether service related or product, what are some suggestions you would impart on that person?
Yeah, so great question, right? One of my favorites, and a steadfast, solid answer, right, is never going to change. First thing that I recommend to every entrepreneur is to go find an advisor in their space that has successfully done whatever they're trying to do. Do not seek free advice. Forge a relationship with somebody that has the knowledge base to help you avoid the pitfalls and costly mistakes in the beginning of starting a business, and pay them for their service. You'll find that paying advisory services are far more fruitful than somebody that might be doing it as a hobby. The second thing is to make sure that you surround yourself with like founders. We talk about books and what's my favorite book and what do I read? I learn more from other SaaS founders than I would ever be able to read about and learn about. And just amazing minds, right? So make sure that you surround yourself with like founders, no matter what industry you're in. Go seek a group, both locally and nationally, because they all exist now today, which is great. So whatever vertical, whatever industry you're in, go find that person. And I think that the third thing that I always recommend is making sure that you're inclusive. And I'm a huge fan of this. I mean, we've got, 14 people, 14 different nationalities, all different ages. That's the beautiful thing, right? It's just, I think, I think back to when I was young, and being excluded is not a good feeling, Otto. So if you can have that inclusive mindset, what you'll find is that it softens you. It brings attributes with it, that serve the business well, that serve your culture well, that will ultimately serve your end clients well. And it really starts to foster, this 1, 2, 3 really starts to foster that core nucleus of what can really be the makings of a fantastic business.
Jonathan, I love the 14 people, all with 14 different nationalities. Are they remote?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, we're U.S. based. We took maybe a non-traditional tech approach. So everything that we've done has been built here in the United States. All of our employees are based in the U.S. We have helped some people obtain visas and start a family here, which has been amazing. But yeah, that was just by chance. We were like doing like a census for an open enrollment, and I started looking. I'm like, we don't have any, like, no one's the same. Everybody's different, men, women. It's just all different ages and ethnicities, and it's just and I was like, that's pretty great. And just reflecting like in Black History Month last month, and it's just like, it's a time to self-reflect. And for us, when I was able to do that, it was like, this is what makes us, right? It's just having all these different people. And, we're a flat organization. Like truly everybody has a say across any different area. I talked to the whole team about, capital and corporate and governance, and making sure that they kind of understand our business at a higher level. And then, being able to solve problems together. That's really great. I think, for so long in the beginning, when you're starting a business, it might just be you with a lot of different hats. And I think one of my greatest strengths and my greatest successes in my life has been when I asked for help. Knowing that I am not the smartest at everything, and surrounding myself with people that can provide me strength where I may be weak, and being able to accept that. And again, back to an inclusive mindset. If you have that, this is easy, right? It's very easy to ask for help, and it's very easy to accept it from whomever might be the right person to give it to you.
I find there's different groups, different camps of people who are okay with having 100% remote team. There's people who know everyone in their seats. I want to see you in the office. Or there's people that would do hybrid, that are both. How do you go about managing and operating a basically 100% remote team and creating that culture and everything else?
Yeah, so we have core hours where we're all online. So because we're coastal, we have 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. are our core hours. We meet every day virtually at 12 p.m. And then we do things, we do virtual holiday parties. As we are moving out of, financing and investment and into positive cash flow, we'll get back to an annual, corporate retreat. It's being remote because you have to be is one thing, but if you can be, you want to be that hybrid. We were born to interact in person with people. And so, we make people put their video cameras on. We make sure that we have that connection, but it's still not the same. You can never replace that, the organic things that happen when you're people just together. And so, when it comes to, my recommendation for retreats is, as a founder and a leader in the company, that your executive team should kind of present to the group, and that if you did a 2-day retreat, you might do 2 hours of presentation, and the rest of it's just sharing a meal, doing activities, just being alive together. I mean, just keeping it at kind of those basic human needs and that level. That's where you can continue to forge, really strong bonds. And, as we continue to grow, we have people that are in Virginia. We've got people that are in LA and California area. And so they get together, right? So employees getting together. And then, like I said, I was at a conference about a year ago, we started just a sharing channel where we share pictures, right? Whether it's my daughter's giving me a daddy makeover, or our kids playing, or a daddy daughter dance, or whatever it might be. Just a channel to just share people moments with themselves or their family. And then we also have a channel for working out, right? So that people can share working out. So it's those types of touch points when you're a fully remote company that start to break down some of those barriers, and some of the challenges that come with being a complete remote operation. Otto.
I agree. I like that. I think once people get to know you on a personal level, when you share, if you feel comfortable sharing, of course, some of, home, kids, family, they get to see you. You're just another person, someone else. And I love that part.
Yeah, it's great, right? I mean, that's when you start to really get to know people.
Yeah, exactly. Coming to an end here soon, Jonathan, are there any specific habits or traits you feel that have helped you, whether for business or just personally?
Yeah, I mean, I think personally, um, making, like, for me, I get coaching, which can be very therapeutic. It can be personal, it can be professional, it can go back and forth. But I'd say that making sure that I'm always trying to focus on, like, taking care of myself and taking care of my family, and then going to work. Something I've preached for a long time, but I've really just started practicing in the last year or two. And making sure, when it comes to, your this work life balance, like, as an entrepreneur, it's not always going to be there. So, making sure, if you do have a partner in life, that you're communicating and partnering in all aspects. I think that's really served me well the last couple of years, where it's not, even though I was, starting the company, now it's like, my wife and I have partnered in that aspect as well. And so no matter who your partner is, making sure that you're communicating about those things. Because for me, it's very hard to go to work, and do a good job when I have personal issues, right? And so I can't really focus. Sometimes I might have to, but it's tough. So, making sure that you keep a good line of communication with those close to you and around you, you'll find that they actually can become some really great advisors. And that's at least what I've found in my life, to include, my eldest daughter, or my wife, my father. It's just being able to again be inclusive.
Yeah.
Listen.
You mentioned coaching. Is that business coaching or what type of coaching?
So it started as business coaching, yes. So I've got multiple coaches. Um, on the business side, but two of my coaches also help with my personal life. And so it's I think it's really great. If you can have one great coach in your entire life, even if for a short period of time, like, that's a blessing. I've been blessed a couple of times over, and they are long-term relationships. Again, paid relationships, but I am getting out of that stuff I could have only hoped for, right? So, I always would just end in saying that, as an entrepreneur, you need to make sure that you take time for yourself, that you get a coach that can help you. Again, professionally is great, but personally, I think over the last 8 months, I've gotten to a position where I'm ready for the company to grow. Like, I'm ready for that next step, and that's more personal than it is professional, Otto.
What would you say is your biggest challenge with your role today at EstateSpace?
I think the challenges really never change, right? It's always trying to make sure that you're maintaining focus. A lot of times, things are, you have a lot of things coming in. Now we've got all these people that have ideas, and they want this or they want that. So really making sure that you stay focused. I'm a big fan of, and learn again from others, and slowing down to speed up. So really, taking a step back, keeping our focus, not just reacting to things. And again, the same thing that we try to solve with our technology, right? Helping our clients be proactive versus reactive. And I think, as a founder, when you can start to find that pace where things all start to slow down, and it's almost like you get the right idea at the exact right moment when you needed it in order to do the next thing, and everything kind of comes together across these different aspects of your business. that's the nirvana that you're really seeking as an entrepreneur in any industry.
So when you're not busy working, what do you like to do for fun in your free time?
So I've got a virtuous personal cycle. So I like to golf in the spring through the summer and into the fall. I like to be outdoors in the fall and the winter, and I like to do some skiing, throughout the winter months, and I look to kind of rinse and repeat every year. So, and sprinkling in travel with my family, and that makes for a pretty good year over year.
Nice. What are you most excited about? What does the future look like for you in EstateSpace?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm most excited to just keep on the path that we're on. Working with the families that we have, adding new families. So from a product perspective, from a corporate perspective, we're really getting to a really great point health wise across all aspects of our business. So I'm excited to just keep getting great advice, keep making good decisions, and keep growing the company in the right direction.
Jonathan, if people want to learn more about you and EstateSpace, where can they go to get more information, please?
Yeah, no, great. You can just go to estatespace.com. You can contact us and someone will be in touch. You can find me. You can find some of our other team members on LinkedIn. Please reach out. I love to connect, and I actually will connect, so that we can have a meaningful conversation in the same way that you and I actually know each other now, right? So we
Yeah.
didn't just click a button to know each other on a platform, but we actually, want to forge a relationship and get to know somebody, and that's what you'll get from me.
Jonathan, thank you so much for coming on. It was a ton of fun.
Awesome, I appreciate it. Great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.